The crystalline chamber floated in the void of space, reflecting starlight from 1,000 different suns. Inside, representatives from 847 species gathered in their designated sections. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few had nothing but pure energy contained in special fields. This was the Galactic Council, and today they would decide the fate of humanity. Taewon stood in the center platform, his black suit simple compared to the elaborate garments and biological displays around him. Next to him stood Jisoo, wearing her military dress uniform with a chest full of medals that meant nothing to anyone in this room. They were the only two humans present among thousands of aliens. The Speaker of the Council, a towering creature named Velthor, raised his 4 arms for silence. His species, the Arcosians, had been part of the Council for over 10,000 years. They considered themselves the most civilized race in the galaxy. His voice boomed through the translation devices everyone wore. We gather today to discuss application number 7-7-4-9. The humans of Sol System request full membership in the Galactic Council. Velthor's tone made it clear what he thought of this request. They achieved faster-than-light travel merely 50 years ago. Most species here took centuries to reach the stars after their first flight. The humans rushed forward with reckless speed. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. A reptilian delegate from the Quarthal Alliance hissed loudly. They are violent. Their history is written in blood. War after war after war. They even fight among themselves. Another voice joined in, this one from a floating jellyfish-like creature. They have no respect for established territories. Their colony ships spread like a plague. 20 systems in 50 years. They breed too fast and want too much. Taewon remained calm, his hands clasped behind his back. He had expected this. Every report they had received said the same thing. The galaxy feared humanity not because of what they had done, but because of what they might do. Velthor continued. The Arcosian delegation proposes a ban. Humans shall be restricted to their home system and their existing colonies. No further expansion. No military vessels beyond their current borders. They will be monitored and contained. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some species agreed immediately. Others debated. A few, very few, seemed uncertain. Taewon noticed that Quindle, the Hive Queen representative, had not spoken. Her compound eyes watched him carefully. This is unnecessary. A small voice squeaked from the corner. It belonged to a rabbit-like species that had been helped by human traders once. But the voice was quickly drowned out by louder, more influential members. Velthor raised his arms again. We shall vote within the hour. Does the human delegation wish to speak before we decide their fate? His tone was mocking. He clearly expected them to beg or to make empty promises about peace and cooperation. Taewon stepped forward. Yes, Speaker. I request permission to present evidence to the Council. This caused surprised chittering and clicking throughout the chamber. Evidence? What evidence could possibly matter? The facts were clear. Humans were dangerous. Velthor's facial features twisted into what might have been a smile. Very well, human. You have 5 minutes. Amuse us with your evidence. Laughter echoed through the chamber. The translator had to work overtime to convert thousands of different species versions of mockery into sounds Taewon could understand. Jisoo leaned close and whispered, They are making a mistake. Taewon nodded slightly. He walked to the control panel and inserted a data crystal. The massive holographic display at the center of the chamber flickered to life. I wish to show you 3 events from human history. Recent history. Events that many of you witnessed or heard about, but perhaps did not understand. We understand perfectly, Velthor interrupted. Humans are warlike and unpredictable. What more is there to know? Everything. Taewon replied quietly. He pressed the button. The hologram changed, showing a planet from orbit. It was beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents. Text appeared identifying it as Kepler 442, a human colony world. The date stamp showed this was 20 years ago. "This is boring," someone shouted from the upper levels. "We know humans colonize planets. So does everyone." But Taewon said nothing. He simply let the video play. The view zoomed in, showing a small settlement. Prefabricated buildings, farms, and a few thousand humans living simple lives. Then the display split, showing two massive battle fleets approaching from different directions. The laughter in the chamber began to fade. They recognized those ships. On the left, the Drexian Empire fleet. On the right, the Korthal Alliance Armada. Two species that had been at war for 300 years. A transmission played, first in Drexian. "Attention Kepler 442 colonists. This world sits in contested space. You have 48 hours to evacuate. After that time, this planet will be reduced to ash. This is your only warning." Another transmission in Korthal language. "Human settlers, you do not belong here. You have 2 days to leave. We will show no mercy to those who remain. Evacuate now." The chamber was completely silent now. Every being present remembered this incident. It had been a major diplomatic crisis 20 years ago. But what happened next, most had forgotten or never truly understood. The hologram showed the human colony. But instead of ships preparing to leave, it showed something else entirely. The humans were opening their shelter doors and emergency bunkers. And walking in were not humans, but aliens. Hundreds of them. Drexians, Korthals, refugees from nearby systems caught in the war zone. Taewon finally spoke. The humans did not evacuate. Instead, they sent every ship they had to collect refugees from both sides of your war. They brought them to Kepler 442, and then they waited. Valther's confident expression had vanished. His eyes were locked on the display. Around the chamber, delegates leaned forward, suddenly very interested in what happened next. The holographic display continued showing the settlement on Kepler 442. The camera view switched to ground level, inside one of the larger shelter buildings. The footage was shaky, clearly recorded from someone's personal device rather than professional equipment. A young human man appeared in the frame. He wore medical scrubs covered in dark stains that could only be blood. The subtitle identified him as Minho, combat medic. His face was exhausted, with dark circles under his eyes. But his hands moved with steady precision as he worked on a wounded Drexian soldier. The Drexian scales were burned, and his breathing came in harsh gasps. His kind were known throughout the galaxy as fierce warriors, standing over 7 feet tall with natural armor plating. This one looked broken, defeated. He spoke in his own language, and the translation scrolled across the bottom of the display. "Why?" The Drexian asked. "Why save me? Your people owe us nothing. We bring death to your doorstep." Minho did not look up from his work, carefully cleaning the burned tissue. "Because you are hurt, and I am a doctor. That is reason enough." The Drexian tried to speak again, but Minho gently pushed him back down. "Rest now. Save your strength. You are safe here." The camera panned across the shelter. Dozens of aliens lay on makeshift beds. Drexians and Korthals side by side, their ancient hatred forgotten in their shared suffering. Human medical staff moved between them, treating everyone equally. In one corner, a human woman was holding a Korthal child, singing softly while the child's parent received treatment. The scene shifted to outside the shelter. A landing pad showed ships arriving constantly, packed with refugees. A woman in a muddy jacket stood with a datapad, directing the crowds. The subtitle identified her as Hai Jin, evacuation coordinator. Group 7, you go to Shelter 3, she called out, pointing. Group 8, Shelter 4, has hot food waiting. Children under 10 cycles, follow the person with the yellow flag. We have a special area set up for you with games and activities. A Corthal mother approached her, carrying 2 small children and dragging a third. She spoke in broken human language. We have no money. Cannot pay. Cannot repay kindness. Aijin knelt down to look the children in the eyes. She smiled warmly. You do not need money here. You need safety and food and rest. That is what we give. No payment required. You are a guest in our home. The mother's eyes filled with tears. In Corthal culture, such generosity between strangers was unheard of. But the war, your people could die because of us. The fleets are coming. Then we die together, Haijin said simply. She stood and gestured to a young man nearby. Dongwu, please help this family to Shelter 2. Make sure the children get extra blankets. The temperature drops at night. The footage jumped forward in time. The date stamp showed 47 hours had passed. Almost time for the deadline. The view was from orbit now, showing both battle fleets holding position on opposite sides of the planet. Between them, the small human colony looked impossibly fragile. Inside the council chamber, the delegates watched in complete silence. Many of them had not known the full story of what happened at Kepler 442. They had heard about a diplomatic incident, a near disaster that was somehow resolved. But they had not seen this. The hologram showed the inside of a communication center. A middle-aged human man sat at the console, his fingers dancing across the controls. He was transmitting on all frequencies, broadcasting to both fleets simultaneously. This is Kepler 442 Colonial Administration. We acknowledge your deadline. We acknowledge your war. But we will not evacuate. His voice was calm, almost conversational. We currently shelter 2,347 Drexian civilians and military wounded. We currently shelter 1,892 Corthal civilians and military wounded. We also have 3,112 human civilians who refuse to leave. A response came from the Drexian fleet, harsh and angry. You are fools. We will not halt our bombardment because you choose to harbor our enemies. The Corthal fleet transmitted as well. Your sacrifice is meaningless. We will not spare the Drexians simply because humans die with them. Evacuate now or accept your fate. The human administrator nodded as if he had expected this. We understand. However, we thought you should know something else. Every human ship that brought refugees here has stayed. 347 civilian vessels. Freighters, passenger ships, private yachts, cargo haulers. They are currently moving into orbital positions. The view switched to external cameras. Sure enough, hundreds of human ships were spreading out across orbital space. They were not military vessels. They had no weapons, no shields worth mentioning. They were simply civilian craft built for carrying goods and people. Back in the council chamber, Velther shifted uncomfortably. He remembered this moment. The entire galaxy had held its breath. The hologram showed one of the freighters, a battered old vessel that looked like it should have been retired decades ago. On its bridge stood an elderly man with gray hair and a weathered face. The subtitle read, Youngsek, Freighter Captain. He activated his transmission. Drexian Fleet, Corthal Fleet, this is the civilian vessel Morning Star. My friends and I have positioned ourselves between you and the planet. If you want to bomb Kepler 442, you will have to go through us first. Another voice joined in, female and young. This is the cargo hauler, Bright Future. I have my 3 children on board. We are not running. More voices added to the transmission. Dozens and hundreds. Ordinary people with ordinary ships, all saying the same thing. They would not move. "This is suicide," the Drexian commander transmitted. "You cannot stop military warships with freighters." Young Seek's laugh came through clearly. "We know. We are not trying to stop you. We are trying to make you think about what you are doing. Those are your people down there. Your wounded soldiers. Your civilian families. And they are standing next to our families. If you fire on that planet, you kill your own people. We are just making sure you have to see us when you do it." The transmission ended. The hologram froze on Young Sik's face. He looked tired but determined. Behind him through the viewport, the massive battle fleets could be seen, weapons charging. Taiwan finally spoke again. Both fleets held position for 6 hours. Neither side would back down. Neither side would fire. Eventually, they began negotiations. The war did not end that day, but a ceasefire was declared for that system. Kepler 442 became neutral ground. All refugees were safely relocated to their chosen destinations over the following month. He paused, looking around the chamber. The humans returned to their farming. Young Sik went back to hauling cargo. Minho and Heijin continued their normal work. They did not ask for medals or recognition. When reporters asked them why they did it, they seemed confused by the question. The hologram showed one final clip. A reporter interviewing Heijin weeks later. "Why did you risk everything for people you did not know?" Heijin had smiled, looking genuinely puzzled. "What else would we do? They needed help. We could give help. Is that not what neighbors do?" The display went dark. The council chamber remained silent after the first video ended. Tae-won could see the delegates exchanging glances, their earlier mockery replaced with something else. Uncertainty, perhaps, or confusion. The galaxy was not used to species that acted this way. Velther cleared his throat, his forearms gesturing dismissively. A touching story. Humans can be foolishly brave. This does not change the fact that you are dangerous. One incident of mercy does not erase your violent nature. "You are correct," Tae-won agreed, surprising everyone. "One incident proves nothing. That is why I have 2 more videos to show you." He pressed another button on the control panel. The holographic display came alive again. This time, it showed the bridge of a spaceship. The vessel was large, but clearly designed for cargo, not combat. The walls were covered with family photos, children's drawings, and various good luck charms from a dozen different cultures. A man sat in the captain's chair, younger than Young Sik from the previous video, maybe in his 30s. He had a thin scar across his cheek and kind eyes. The subtitle identified him as Jae-hyun, Navigator. But the title below that read, Captain of the Merchant Vessel Golden Dawn. Captain's Log, Day 15 of the Kepler 442 crisis. Jae-hyun spoke into the recorder. "We have been holding position in orbit for 2 weeks now. The Drexian and Korthal fleets still refuse to negotiate. Food supplies are running low on the planet below. The refugees are scared. Our people are scared. But nobody is leaving." The video jumped forward. The date stamp showed it was now day 23. Jae-hyun looked more tired, his eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. Behind him, other crew members could be seen at their stations. One was a woman with her hair tied back, her fingers flying over the engineering console. The subtitle read, Yunbai, Engineer. "We have a problem," Yunbai said without looking up from her work. "The Drexian fleet is moving. They are breaking formation and advancing." Jae-hyun stood up immediately. "Defensive positions. Alert the other ships." "Captain," another voice called out. It belonged to a young man barely out of his teens. "The Korthal fleet is also advancing. They think the Drexians are attacking." On the display screen, both massive battle fleets were moving toward each other, and the planet was directly between them. Hundreds of human civilian ships floated in orbital space, completely exposed. "Open a channel to both fleets," Jahan ordered. His voice was steady despite the impossible situation. "All frequencies." The communication systems came online. Both fleet commanders appeared on split screens, their faces twisted with anger and suspicion. "Human vessel, move aside," the Drexian commander growled. "This does not concern you anymore. The Korthals have broken the ceasefire. We will destroy them." "Lies," the Korthal commander hissed. "The Drexians move first. We are simply responding to their aggression. Move your ships or be destroyed with them." Jahan looked at both commanders calmly. "Neither of you move first. Your formations shifted due to gravitational drift from the planet's moons. We have been monitoring you for 23 days. We know every movement you make." He gestured to Yunbai, who brought up detailed tracking data. The Drexian fleet drifted 0.03 degrees off axis at 0600 hours. The Korthal fleet interpreted this as hostile movement and compensated. This triggered the Drexian early warning systems. "You are about to start a battle because of basic orbital mechanics." Both commanders stared at the data. The Drexians' facial plates shifted in what might have been embarrassment. The Korthal scales changed color slightly. "Even if this is true," the Korthal commander said slowly, "we cannot back down now. To retreat would show weakness. The war would continue." "Then do not retreat," Jahan said. He stood up and walked closer to the camera. "Come forward. Both of you. Come to the planet. See the people you would kill. The Drexian commander can meet his soldiers who were wounded in battle. The Korthal commander can see the families she would destroy. Come down and look them in the eyes before you decide to fire." "This is a trick," the Drexian commander said, but his voice lacked conviction. "No trick," Jahan replied. "We will provide neutral ground. The old community center in the main settlement. No weapons. No guards. Just you, your counterpart, and the people whose lives depend on your decision." The two commanders looked at each other through the split screen. 300 years of war between their species. Countless lives lost. Entire planets destroyed. And now a human was asking them to sit down together in a room. "Why?" the Korthal commander asked. "Why do you care so much? This is not your war." Jahan smiled sadly. "War is everyone's problem. Peace is everyone's responsibility. That is what we believe." The video jumped forward again. The date stamp showed 2 days later. The hologram now showed the interior of a large room, clearly a community center built for gatherings and celebrations. Human children's artwork covered the walls. Tables were set up with food and drinks. The Drexian commander sat on one side of a long table, his armor removed, wearing only simple clothing. Across from him sat the Korthal commander, also without her military gear. Between them stood several human civilians, including Minho the medic and Hyjin the coordinator. "Commander Zelkar," Minho said to the Drexian, "I want you to meet Corporal Dexnal. I treated his burns 20 days ago. He asked me to tell you something." A young Drexian soldier stepped forward, still bandaged but able to walk. He saluted his commander. "Sir, the humans saved my life. They did not ask which side I fought for. They did not ask if I had killed their people. They only asked if I was in pain." The commander's eyes widened. "Dexnal, we thought you were dead. The entire unit was lost in the bombardment of Station 12. I was the only survivor, sir. The humans found me floating in an escape pod. They brought me here." The young soldier's voice cracked. "These people lost their own loved ones in our war. The colony administrator's wife died when one of our stray missiles hit a civilian transport. Yet he still opened his home to me." Hyjin stepped forward, addressing the Korthal commander. Commander Kylara, I want you to meet someone. She gestured to a Corthal woman holding two small children. This is Specialist Novia. She was stationed on the Corthal border outpost that was destroyed 3 months ago. The Corthal commander stood up abruptly. Specialist Novia? The entire outpost was destroyed. There were no survivors reported. I barely escaped, Commander, the specialist said quietly. I floated in space for 6 days before a human mining ship found me. I was half dead. They saved me. And when I told them I had children in a refugee camp, they personally went and brought them here. She looked down at her children. My little ones would be dead without these humans. The refugee camp was in the direct path of the next battle. The room fell silent. The two commanders looked at each other, really looked, perhaps for the first time in their military careers. They saw not monsters or enemies, but tired soldiers who were sick of war. 300 years, the Drexian commander said softly. 300 years of killing. And it took humans to show us that our people are not so different. The Corthal commander nodded. Perhaps it is time to talk. Really talk. Not as enemies, but as leaders who are responsible for millions of lives. The video showed them shaking hands, a human gesture that neither species had used before. Around them, the rescued soldiers and civilians watched with hope. The hologram faded to show the exterior of the planet. Both fleets were withdrawing, moving to safe distances. A ceasefire had been declared. Negotiations would begin. The final clip showed Jae-hyun on his ship's bridge, recording his final log entry. Day 37. The fleets are leaving. The refugees are being returned home safely. We did it. Or maybe they did it themselves, and we just gave them the excuse to stop fighting. He smiled. Either way, people are alive who would have been dead. That seems like a good day's work. The display went dark again. In the council chamber, nobody laughed this time. Velthor looked troubled, his earlier confidence completely gone. Tae-won spoke quietly. The Direction Corthal War did not end that day, but it ended 3 years later. Both sides cite the Kepler 442 incident as the turning point. The moment they remembered that soldiers and civilians are people, not just numbers on a battlefield report. Tae-won looked around the council chamber. The atmosphere had completely changed from when he first started speaking. The delegates were no longer mocking or dismissive. Many looked uncomfortable. Some were whispering to their aides. Quindle, the Hive Queen, had not moved at all, her compound eyes fixed on the human ambassador. You have shown us humans can be kind, Velthor said, though his voice lacked its earlier arrogance. You have shown us humans can be brave. But Speaker Tae-won, kindness and bravery do not remove the danger your species poses. You still expand too fast. You still carry weapons. You still have the capacity for great violence. You are absolutely right, Tae-won replied. We are dangerous. We have never claimed otherwise. But I want to show you one more thing before you vote on whether to ban us. His hand hesitated over the control panel. This video is difficult to watch. It involves death. Human death. A lot of it. But I believe you need to see it to understand who we really are. Jisoo, standing beside him, placed her hand on his shoulder briefly. A gesture of support. Tae-won pressed the button. The holographic display activated, showing a massive space station in orbit around a gas giant. The structure was beautiful, with rotating sections and solar arrays catching the light from the distant sun. Text appeared. Station Prometheus, Human Research Facility. Date: 8 years ago. Station Prometheus was a joint research facility, Tae-won explained. Humans worked alongside scientists from 37 different species. We studied everything from exotic matter to xenobiology. It was a place of learning and cooperation. The video showed the interior of the station. Laboratories filled with beings of all shapes and sizes working together. Human researchers collaborated with crystalline entities. Insectoid scientists shared data with aquatic species in specialized tanks. Children of various species played together in the habitat rings while their parents worked. The station housed 3,000 humans, Taewon continued. It also housed 8,000 non-humans. Scientists, families, support staff. It was a small city in space. The video jumped forward. Alarms were blaring. People were running through corridors. The date stamp showed this was day 1 of the crisis. A human woman appeared on screen, wearing a medical uniform. Her name tag read, So Young, Chief Medical Officer. She was in an emergency briefing room with other senior staff. Her face was pale. We have a containment breach in Lab 7, she said, her voice shaking slightly. The experimental xenobiology samples were being studied when something went wrong. We have accidentally created a plague. A virus that combines genetic material from 17 different species. An older human man, clearly the station administrator, leaned forward. How bad is it? So Young pulled up data on a screen. It spreads through the air. Highly contagious. Infection rate is nearly 100% in enclosed spaces. She paused, and her next words came out like she was forcing herself to say them. It is fatal to humans. 100% fatal. First symptoms appear in 12 hours. Death follows within 48 hours after that. The room went silent. Someone finally asked, "What about the other species?" "That is the strange part," So Young said. "The virus is completely harmless to every other species we have tested. It only kills humans. It is as if we accidentally created something that targets human biology specifically." The administrator stood up. "Immediate quarantine protocols. Seal the station. No ships in or out. We cannot let this spread to Earth or the colonies." The video showed the next several hours. The station was sealed. Every human staff member was already infected. The airborne virus had spread through the ventilation systems before they even knew it existed. 3,000 humans, all carrying a death sentence. Another human appeared on screen, a pilot with a friendly face, despite the fear in his eyes. The subtitle read, Sang-woo, shuttle pilot. He was in a docking bay, preparing a small ship. "This is Evacuation Ship 7, he transmitted. "I am loading the last group of Cartexian families now. That makes 238 non-human evacuees on this run. Beginning launch sequence." "Sang-woo," a voice came through his radio. It was So Young. "You know you are already infected. You should stay with us." "I know," Sang-woo replied calmly. "But these people need to get away from the station. The plague might mutate. It might become dangerous to them too. I can get them to the quarantine ships before I get too sick to fly." "You are a good man," So Young said softly. "I am just a pilot doing my job," Sang-woo said. His ship lifted off, carrying alien families to safety. The video showed multiple human pilots doing the same thing. Ship after ship, carrying every non-human off the station. Children, elderly, scientists, families. The humans worked around the clock, knowing they were dying, focused only on saving everyone else inside the medical bay. So Young and her staff treated the first humans showing symptoms. High fever, respiratory distress, organ failure. The patients were in agony. But the medical staff never stopped working, even as they began showing symptoms themselves. A human man appeared on screen, middle-aged with kind eyes. He was in a viewing area, talking through a thick glass window to a group of alien children on the other side. The subtitle identified him as Kyung-min, xenobiology researcher. He was smiling despite the dark veins visible on his neck, a symptom of advancing plague infection. On the other side of the glass, A group of young Corthal children pressed their small hands against the window. They were crying. One of them spoke, her voice transmitted through the intercom. "Teacher Kyung-min, please come with us. We do not want you to die." Kyung-min kept smiling, though tears ran down his face. "I cannot come, little ones. I am sick, and I might make others sick. But you are safe now. The ship will take you to your parents. But who will teach us about Earth animals?" Another child asked. "You promised to tell us about dolphins next week." "I will write it all down," Kyung-min promised. "Everything I know about dolphins, and whales, and all the wonderful creatures of Earth. The other teachers will share it with you. You will learn everything, I promise." A human woman came to escort the children to their evacuation ship. As they left, Kyung-min pressed his hand against the glass where the children had been. His smile faded. He looked at the camera, recording him. "I do not regret this," he said quietly. "These children are alive. That is what matters. That is all that matters." The video continued showing the final days. Every non-human was evacuated. All 8,000 of them, taken to safety by humans who knew they were dying. The medical staff worked until they physically could not stand anymore. Pilots flew until they collapsed at their controls. Engineers maintained life support systems while coughing up blood. The last transmission from Station Prometheus came from So Young. She was the final human alive on the station. Alone in the medical bay, surrounded by empty beds and silent equipment. The plague had ravaged her body, but she managed to record one final message. "This is Chief Medical Officer So Young. Final log entry. All non-human personnel have been successfully evacuated. 0 alien casualties. Human casualties." Her voice broke. 3,000 human casualties. The station will be destroyed by automated systems in 6 hours to prevent any chance of the plague surviving. She took a shaky breath. "I want anyone who sees this to know something. We did not consider this a sacrifice. We did not see ourselves as heroes. We were doctors, pilots, teachers, parents, and there were people who needed help. That is all. That is everything." The video showed the station from external cameras. 6 hours later, it exploded. A bright flash in the darkness of space, then nothing. 3,000 lives ended in an instant. The council chamber was completely silent. Many delegates had turned away during the video. Some were openly crying, as much as their biology allowed. Jisoo finally spoke, her voice strong and clear. 8 years ago, Station Prometheus sacrificed every human life aboard to save 8,000 aliens. 3 months ago, a human colony ship gave up their water reserves to save a Veltharian stranded fleet, knowing it meant rationing for their own children. Last year, human emergency responders died rescuing Arcosian miners trapped in an asteroid collapse, even though Arcosians had voted to restrict human trade routes. She stepped forward, standing beside Taewon. "You want to know if humans are dangerous? Yes, we are. We are dangerous to ourselves most of all. We will throw ourselves into fire to pull out strangers. We will die so others can live. We cannot stop ourselves from helping, even when it kills us." She looked directly at Velthar. "So yes, Speaker, we are dangerous. But the question is not whether you should ban us. The question is whether you can afford not to have us when something threatens this galaxy." The display went dark for the final time. The silence in the council chamber felt heavy, like the air itself had become thick with emotion. Taewon stood in the center platform with Jisoo beside him, waiting. Around them, 847 species processed what they had just witnessed. Velthar was the first to speak. His voice had lost all its earlier confidence and mockery. This is propaganda. These videos could be manipulated. How do we know these events truly happened as you claim? Before Taiwan could respond, Quindle rose from her seat. The Hive Queen rarely spoke in council sessions, but when she did, everyone listened. Her species had existed for millions of years and kept perfect records of everything they observed. The videos are authentic, Quindle said, her voice resonating through the translation devices. The Hive witnessed all three events. We have independent records of Kepler 442, the Drexian-Corthel negotiations, and the Station Prometheus incident. We can verify every detail Ambassador Taiwan has shown. She moved closer to the center platform, her massive form casting shadows. But verification is not what troubles me. What troubles me is that we knew these events happened, yet we dismissed them. We saw humans sacrifice themselves and called it foolishness. We saw humans save our species and called it political maneuvering. We witnessed their compassion and chose to remember only their capacity for violence. A reptilian delegate from the Drexian Empire stood up. His scales were scarred from old battles. I was the commander at Kepler 442, the one in the videos. Everything shown is true. The humans could have fled. They should have fled. Instead, they gathered our people, our enemies, our wounded, and they protected all of us. They forced me to see Corthel soldiers as living beings instead of targets. He looked around the chamber. That war ended because of what the humans did. Billions of lives saved because a few thousand humans refused to be sensible. A Corthel representative stood as well, her scale shifting colors with emotion. My sister was Specialist Nelvia from the video. She and her children live today because a human mining ship went out of their way to rescue a drifting escape pod. The humans did not know if she was friend or enemy. They did not care. They only knew someone needed help. More voices joined in. A crystalline being from Station Prometheus spoke about the human researchers who died, making sure every alien was evacuated. A Valtharian merchant described how human colonists gave up water they desperately needed to save his fleet. Story after story, species after species confirming that humanity's strange compassion was not isolated incidents but a pattern of behavior. Valthar's forearms trembled slightly. This makes no sense. Evolution should have eliminated such self-destructive tendencies. How did your species survive to reach the stars if you constantly sacrifice yourselves for others? Taiwan smiled sadly. We almost did not survive. Our history is full of near extinctions. Wars, plagues, environmental collapse. We have come close to destroying ourselves dozens of times. But every time, there were humans who chose to save others instead of themselves. Doctors who stayed with the sick. Firefighters who ran into burning buildings. Ordinary people who hid refugees in their homes during genocides. He gestured to Jisoo. My colleague said we are dangerous to ourselves most of all. This is true. But it is also our greatest strength. We survived because some of us always choose hope over fear, compassion over hatred, sacrifice over survival. A small voice spoke up from the upper levels. It belonged to an elderly being from a species so old they had watched stars being born. The elder Ko had not spoken in a council session for over 200 years. When they spoke now, every being in the chamber fell silent. You fear humanity, Elder Ko said, their voice like wind through ancient trees. This is wise. They are dangerous. But you fear them for the wrong reasons. The ancient being floated down to the center platform, moving beside Taiwan. I have observed many species rise to space travel. Most learn civilization through evolution. Predators learn cooperation because it helps them hunt. Prey species learn unity because it helps them survive. They become civilized because nature forced them to adapt. Elder Ko turned to look at all the assembled delegates. Humans are different. They learn civilization by choice. They are still predators. They still have instincts for violence and tribalism. Every day, Every moment, they choose to be better than their nature. This terrifies you because your species do not understand what it means to fight your own instincts constantly. The ancient being placed a hand on Tae-Won's shoulder. You see humans sacrifice themselves and call it irrational. But it is the most rational thing in existence. They know that survival without compassion is not survival at all. They know that living at the cost of others is not living at all. So they choose to risk everything, to give everything, because the alternative is to become what they fear most, creatures that care only for themselves. Valther sat down heavily. What are you saying, Elder Kao? That we should welcome humanity despite their dangerous nature? I am saying you should welcome them because of it, Elder Kao replied. When I was young, I watched the Krellin expansion, a powerful species that conquered half the galaxy through force. They cared nothing for other species. They took what they wanted. Eventually, the galaxy united to stop them, but billions died. Do you know why the Krellin became conquerors? No one answered. Elder Kao continued. Because they never learned to value anyone except themselves. They reached the stars with only self-interest guiding them. They were dangerous because they lacked compassion, not because they possessed it. The ancient being looked at each council member in turn. Humanity is dangerous because they care too much, not too little. They will fight to protect you. They will die to save you. They will sacrifice their own future for yours. Tell me, which is more terrifying? A species that might hurt you because they care nothing for you, or a species that might hurt themselves because they care too much for you? The chamber erupted in debate. Some delegates argued that humanity should be welcomed immediately. Others remained cautious. Valther sat in silence, his worldview clearly shaken. Quindle spoke again. I call for a vote. Not on a ban, but on full council membership for humanity. Let us decide now, with all evidence presented. The voting began. It took hours. Each species cast their vote, the results displayed on the massive holographic board. The numbers climbed slowly. For membership, against, abstaining. The tension in the chamber was unbearable. Finally, the last vote was cast. The results appeared. Tae-Won felt his heart pounding. Jisoo gripped his arm tightly. Quindle read the results. 431 votes in favor. 390 votes against. 26 abstentions. The motion passes. Humanity is granted full membership in the Galactic Council. The chamber exploded in noise. Some species cheered. Others protested. Valther stood slowly and approached Tae-Won. The Arcosian looked tired. I voted against you, Valther admitted. I still believe you are dangerous. But Elder Kao was right. Perhaps that is exactly what this galaxy needs. He extended one of his 4 arms. Tae-Won shook it, a gesture Valther had learned meant respect among humans. Do not make me regret this, Valther said quietly. We will try not to, Tae-Won replied. But we are human. We will probably do things that scare you. We will probably do things that seem irrational. But I promise you this. Whatever we do, we will do it the best intentions. That is what worries me, Valther said, but there was the hint of a smile in his expression. The council session ended. As the delegates filed out, many approached Tae-Won and Jisoo to offer congratulations or express concern. Elder Kao remained, floating nearby. You have one final task, Ambassador Tae-Won, the ancient being said. You must teach us. The council voted to accept humanity, but they do not truly understand you yet. You must teach us how to choose to be better than we are, how to fight our own nature in service of higher ideals. This is humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. Tae-Won bowed respectfully. We will try, Elder Kao. Though I must warn you, we are not always successful. We fail often. We struggle constantly. That is the lesson, Elder Ko replied. That the struggle itself is what matters. That choosing to try is more important than succeeding every time. Later, as Taewon and Jisoo walked toward their ship, Jisoo spoke quietly. Did we tell them the truth? Did we show them who we really are? Taewon was silent for a moment. We showed them who we are when others are watching, when we are trying our best, when we rise to meet a challenge. And the other times? Jisoo asked. When we are petty, when we are selfish, when we fail to live up to our own ideals. Let us hope they never see those times, Taewon said. Or if they do, let us hope they remember these videos and give us the benefit of the doubt. Because the truth is, Jisoo, we are both. We are the humans who died at Station Prometheus, and we are the humans who start wars over resources. We are capable of great good and terrible evil. He stopped walking and looked back at the council chamber, glittering in the starlight. But I think Elder Ko understood that. The choice is what matters. Every day we wake up and choose which humans we want to be. Some days we choose poorly. But some days, on our best days, we choose to be the people in those videos.